it turns you into a liar. It turns you into a manipulator because you've never developed the skills to be honest. Welcome to the Black Mother Wound podcast, where we center the stories of Black women as we heal from the painful relationships with our mothers. Welcome to the Black Mother Wound podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Arnest. So let's talk about why we think it is so wrong and so bad and the worst thing in the world that we could ever do. And for sure, we are going straight to hell when we disagree with our mama. This whole concept, I'm going to call it a myth. The myth of disagreeing with your mother somehow has come to be this belief now that you are disrespectful, you are unappreciative, you are rebellious, and you was just a no good, good for nothing heathen. And really, some of our mothers have instilled that in us, that when we disagree with them, that fundamentally we are creating the biggest sin we could ever commit as a child. And that is really jacked up because it teaches us not to learn to listen to ourselves. And remember, your mother wound is all about not having autonomy over your mind, your body, your emotions, your spirit. And when you can't disagree with someone, it means you can't have an opinion. You can't have a different idea. You can't see something from a different perspective. And it also means that your perspective, your value, your point of view is baseless. It has no value because you are a child. Now, the crazy part becomes when you're 35 and you are still a child. You're like, you still my child. No, I am your daughter. I am no one's child any longer. And again, this is also why I say the Black mother wound is different from the regular white folks' mother wound, because this is a fundamental part of Black parenting that goes back to children are to be seen and not to be heard. And that if you have a voice and that you speak up, you should get your ass whooped. You should get punished. You should be silenced. The way you feel doesn't matter. What you have to say doesn't matter. The way you see things, especially about your own life. And there can be no discussion because guess what? Your mom is not one of your little friends. I know we've all heard that. She is the absolute authority in our life. Now, what really pissed us off as children is we knew most of the time she didn't know what the fuck she was doing. And she was making mistake after mistake after mistake. And it's okay to make mistakes. But this is where the mother wound is passed down because she knows she doesn't know what she's doing. But she thinks she'll lose absolute control of raising you and guiding you if you see a crack in her armor. Little does she know that if we were allowed to see the crack in her armor, we would see her as a human being instead of just seeing her as the archetype of strong Black woman, know everything, sit her up there next to Jesus and John the Baptist. But instead, her own fear, her own lack of internal authority causes her to show up as a know-it-all. Because if there's any doubt in her parenting, things could go off the rails and she could really lose control. And all of the fears that she has, that she had for her life, that she now has for our life, she thinks they will come true. Now, much of this is rooted in her own trauma and her own paranoia. And I need to set the stage for you because we are looking at disagreeing with our mother still as disrespectful. And we are looking at it as dishonoring her. And if you grew up anywhere in the Black church, you are supposed to honor your mother and father for all your days. But we don't even know what that means. We have been taught that means do what they say without question. Period. End of story. And anything less than that is punishable. And it's crazy as we're talking about it. And I know it sounds crazy when you hear me say it, like it doesn't even make sense. You can go anywhere else and have an opinion. If you are having a conversation on Instagram and you disagree with someone in the comments, it's not disrespectful. You've disagreed with your teachers and your professors, with people at work, with people on the street, and you all have been able to have a discussion, a conversation, even a healthy debate, and walk away, and you all both still have a common respect for one another. What's up, and thank you for watching this episode of the Black Mother Wound Podcast. I'll let you get back to it in less than 60 seconds. If you're watching this, then you've been struggling with the effects of the painful relationship with your mother. This is why I created Resolve. It's a 6-week group healing program for Black women who are finally ready to heal their mother wound, but need the support, guidance, and a safe community to do it in. Whether you're struggling to accept your mother for who she is, trying to make peace with the past, or learning how to build a loving relationship with yourself, Resolve is the answer. Imagine making decisions that are best for you without feeling guilty. What if you could finally trust and believe in yourself and begin living your best life on your own terms? These are just a couple of the ways Resolve can change your life for the better. If you're ready to start thriving in your life now, click the link in the description box below to sign up and get notified when the class opens in August. We really are all in this together. But for some reason, if we exercise these same basic human skills and interactions with our mother, use a goddamn Jezebel. I'm sending you to stay with your daddy. Go to your room. Don't say nothing else to me. You're getting slapped across the mouth. It's so irrational. But because Black culture also endorses this, it shames us. It shames us into silence. It shames us into thinking that we can't say anything to our mother that she will not like. But guess what this turns you into? You ready? It turns you into a liar. It turns you into a manipulator. Because you've never developed the skills to be honest and to express who you are and to show who you are authentically. You've had to tiptoe around for your survival. You've had to connive. You've had to backdoor your way into getting what you wanted because that's the only way it would work. So now you're out in the world doing the same bullshit, and now it's turned you into a liar, a sneak, a cheat, a manipulator, and a whole fucking scaredy cat. And you want somebody to save you and nobody is coming. So I'm trying to first explain how it's showing up in your life and make that the most important thing. I don't want the most important thing, and I'm going to get into this, how we can be respectful, how we can honor her. How do we deal with feeling guilty and her feelings being hurt and the rest of our family being mad at us? No, because that is what's most important to you. That's what you've been taught is supposed to be most important. But what you first got to be very aware of is how this behavior is showing up in your life and it's fucking you up. And you wondering why you can't get the things you want to have. And it's because of this one thing right here. You being taught that disagreeing with your mother is disrespectful and it's dishonoring her. And we are going to break that shit down today because enough is fucking enough. Because the questions I get are, how can you respectfully disagree with your mother? Just think about what you're saying. You're not saying, how can I effectively disagree with my mother? How can I disagree with my mother without becoming too emotional? How can I disagree with my mother and stand my ground? How can I disagree with my mother and hold to my integrity? What most people want to know is, how can I disagree with my mother without making her upset? Because nothing matters more than appeasing her, appealing to her, and having her approval. Because without it, I am nothing. I have nothing. I know nothing. I am nothing. I am ungrateful and disrespectful. And I will be seen and judged as so. And I really care about what other people think about me. But what do you mean by respectful? Y'all are saying respectful, but that's not really what you mean, because to respect someone is to see them in a high regard. It doesn't mean that they get their way. It means that I treat them fairly. To have a respectful conversation with someone is to see their intrinsic value. It is to behave in a way in which you would want someone else to treat you. That's all respect is. This idea of respect for our mother is so fucking skewed. And for our elders. It has, because it goes to your elders too, especially if you're from the Southern Black church. It's like, if anybody is older than you, then they can tell you what to do. You can't say anything and they are right. And you pretend, lie, that you agree with them and you're going with whatever they're telling you you should do. You like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Knowing you about to go in your car, roll a blunt up, light it, cuss somebody out and go get dick down somewhere when they told you just to go home and read your Bible. And you like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's what I mean by you turn into a liar. It doesn't mean you got to tell them what you're doing or even debate it, but you can excuse yourself from that. And if it is a conversation, you can disagree, but you cannot have autonomy in your life. You cannot heal your mother wound when you prioritize the emotions and perspectives of others, starting with your mother. And I'm going to tell you the beautiful thing about this, because if you get this, boo, you're going to be on it. If you can get this with your mother, if you can stand your ground with authority and integrity with your mother, you can do it with anybody, anywhere. Nobody can shake you. You can stand in your own space and you can take up room. You can ask for what you need. You can set the boundary and you can move through life in a way that suits you. But guess what? It starts with her first. And if you don't have contact with your mother and you're still having this issue with other people in your life, we're going to still use it, because whoever's closest to you and you're keeping this covenant that you have, this destructive, codependent covenant, this agreement, you're going to be fucked as long as you stay in that. So there is no respectful way. Are you a respectful person? There's no answer to that. All you can do is, how can I honestly do it? How can I disagree honestly? How can I show up as myself? And do you know how you do that? You do it by practicing. And you might get it wrong in the beginning. Your voice is going to shake. You're going to cry. You might even back down. You might scream and holler. You might get up and walk out. But it's okay, because you're learning. Remember, this is a part of the reparenting process. If you have a little child and they're learning how to communicate and express their emotions, they're not going to get it right all the time. They're going to make mistakes. You have to be patient with them, teach them, and show them how to come back. It's the same thing for you, but you have to practice it. This is what I want you to imagine, right? So this is what I want you to write down. If there are some conversations that you know you need to have with your mother, right? If you're in contact and in relationship with her, And you're worried because you know it's going to be a disagreement, it's going to be a fight, different things like that. It might be, a boundary you have to set. I want you to write down what's the worst thing that can happen, because that's what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to avoid the worst thing that could happen. And I want you to go down the rabbit hole. Well, the worst thing that could happen is she stopped speaking to me. Okay. And then when she stops speaking to you, what will happen? What will that mean? Oh, my family members are going to call me and they're going to be like, why did you do A, B, C, and D with your mother? Why are you acting like that? They're going to do that. And then what's going to happen? Okay, now you have to disagree with them. Okay, when you disagree with them, they might stop speaking to you. Okay, then when they stop speaking to you, then what happens? Well, we have a event coming up, a family event. And if they're not speaking to me and I go to the event, then it's going to be awkward. Okay, well, then what happens? Like, you really have to think about that, because for many people, their tribal family structure is the one that they depend on the most, and they're in a tribe. And you have a way that you show up, and you're afraid to step outside of that. But like I said, you cannot heal your life without your life changing, which means you have to do things differently. You're going to have to disappoint them. You're going to have to disappoint them all, boo. Everybody. You're going to have to pick yourself first and let the chips fall where they may. And you're trying to control the outcome. And of course, I get it. That's what we had to do as children. We had to think 5 or 10 steps ahead of what people were going to do so it could turn out in a way so we would be safe and still get our needs met. But now I'm trying to tell you, you have to start meeting your own needs. Last week's episode was about meeting your own needs, because even if you agree with your mother, even if you agree with your family, you're not really going to get your needs met. They're not meeting your needs. You have just squashed them down and you're over there sitting in the corner pretending that they like you, when they really don't fuck with you like that, unless you show up the way they want you to show up. So this whole respectful thing, this whole honor, how do I honor my mother and still assert my independence and autonomy? Why would someone who loves you and cares for you not want you to be independent and autonomous? And how is you being independent and autonomous in contrast to honoring your mother? I want you to really think about that, because we've been bamboozled. I feel like I'm like on my soapbox right now, because I really want to scream and I want to line everybody up and just slap everybody back and forth, including myself, because it took me so long to get this. And trust me, I understand what it's like when your throat locks up and you want to say something, but you get there and it freezes and you like, oh, I'll say it next time. And then you go home and you sitting in the car and you mad and you thinking about it and you ruminating over it week after week. I can't believe she said that and she did that. And I'm going to ask her why she was acting like that. All of this when you just going to have to rip the Band-Aid off. These conversations are not about trying to get her to admit she was wrong. I know I sound like a broken record, but I got to keep reminding y'all of that. This is not the conversation. Now, if something comes up and she does talk about what a wonderful mother she was and she did this and she did that, and you can be like, no, according to me and my memory and my lived experience, and if you want to say it, I respectfully disagree with you. This is the thing about me. I don't argue with nobody. I can tell you I disagree with you, but you don't have to agree with me. I'm not going to try and make anybody see my point. To me, that's my superpower. It's really how I keep my peace. I am not going to try and make anybody agree with me or see my point. But you will know that we are not in agreement. And we don't even have to talk about that shit anymore. But it is on the record. that I disagree. I don't even have to tell you what my perspective is. Actually, that's where y'all be getting it fucked up. Y'all be trying to have the conversation because you are still trying to change your mother and you're trying to get her buy-in with whatever it is you got going on in your life. Because the question really isn't, how do I respectfully disagree? How do I honor her while asserting my independence and autonomy? It is still, how do I get her to see me? How do I get her to like me? How do I get her to agree with me? How do I do that, Jennifer? That's really what you all want. And that's still manipulative because she's on her end trying to make you see it her way, and you on your side of the fence trying to get her to see it your way. And you all are committing the same travesty against each other when that is not the name of the game. It is, I disagree with you. No, I won't be doing that. No, I don't like that. No, I won't be coming to that. That's all it is. Like, there's nothing disrespectful about what I just said. How could you saying what you feel honestly be truly disrespectful? How? If you call her out her name? How? Like, if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. So I need y'all to really listen closely to what I'm saying. It is okay, and you have permission to disagree with your mother. In addition to that, she doesn't need to agree with you either. And the more you practice healing your mother wound, the more you attune to your own unmet needs, the more you reparent yourself, the less you will need her validation and her approval, the less what she thinks matters to you about who you are, because now you're developing your own authentic identity and you holding yourself down. You're not waiting on her to say that you exist. You know that you exist. Now, once you do this, once you put your big girl drawers on and you do this, guess what happens? You feel guilty. You feel so fucking guilty. Feeling guilty and being guilty are not the same things. Feeling guilty, it's a feeling. Being guilty is an actual thing. So if you need to write that on a piece of paper, put it on your mirror, put it on the dashboard of your car, sit it next to your nightstand so you can read it every day. Feeling guilty is not guilty. It's a programming. It's a programming that you have in your mind that when you advocate for yourself, you are wrong in any way. Period. With your mother, with the people at the grocery store, with the people at work, no matter what. And you're afraid of how they're going to respond. Because again, you want to control how people see you. You are going to feel guilty in the beginning. And guess what? You're going to have to feel your feelings, baby. That's all you're going to be able to do. You're going to have to go through laying in bed, holding yourself, rocking yourself, getting you some Haagen-Dazs, and soothing yourself and saying, you're not guilty. You're going to have to congratulate yourself. You did a good job. I'm so proud of you, the way that you stood up for yourself. I really liked how you said what was on your mind. It was simple and to the point, and then you got up and left, girl. You ended the conversation. That was deep. Or I know you busted out crying. I know that didn't go the way you wanted it to go. I know you didn't say everything that you wanted to say, but you tried. And I'm so happy you did that. And then I want you to ask your inner little girl. You might feel guilty, the grown-up version of you, but I want you to ask her, how do you feel about me speaking up for you? How did that make you feel? And when she comes back and she tells you, it made me feel good. It made me feel proud. It made me feel seen. Her elation, her being seen, is going to disrupt those feelings of guilt that you have. And then what you have to do is you have to continually Do the work. And really, once you bust out everybody's expectation of you and they know that you're going to express how you feel, and it's not a discussion, it's a statement, and you will get up and you will leave. Because really, disagreeing is a form of setting a boundary. And a boundary is not a conversation. A boundary is a statement. And nobody else has to agree with it. And really, what you also don't like is if you disagree, what will happen after that? And you don't want to deal with any type of backlash when really you're doing it to create a safety around yourself. But you have to keep practicing it. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And the more you practice it, the less you'll need to practice it, because people will know not to even come around you with that. It won't even be a thing because they'll already know. And they might think you mean. They might think that you're aggressive. They might think a whole lot of shit. But guess what? They're going to keep it to their damn self. And you will be free. Because that's what this work is about. This work is about you being emotionally and mentally free. It should be the only thing you give a fuck about. And people who care about you and love you, that's what they should care about. They should be happy for you finding that freedom, because we all deserve it. So the myth of disagreeing with your mother as disrespectful or dishonorable has been busted. It's official. It's done. You can stop saying it. Stop thinking about it. Stop worrying about it. If you forget about it, come back and listen to this episode. Okay. That's all I got for y'all today. I love you. Thank you for being here. And if you haven't already, join the YouTube channel, because now this is officially a video podcast. So you can look at me and you can listen to me at the same time. Subscribe, comment, share. Hey, I will see y'all next week. We are definitely all in this together. Thank you for listening to the Black Mother Wound podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and make sure you comment, subscribe, and rate the show. You can keep the conversation going over on IG at Black Mother Wound, and click the link in the show notes to download the free Mother Wound Healing Guide. See you next week.